other people can do a certain piece probably better than I could. And, my time is better spent, focusing on the things I'm good at. And so, it's just knowing when to, take that hat off and let somebody else wear it. That's a really good point there. So as far as maybe some roadblocks and resources, I like to touch on that part because, there's going to be, roadblocks that people are going to need to look out for, and then resources that they want to look for. Obviously, your business with OpSiix, that would be a resource I would say people need to look for. But what are some others that you found as far as, roadblocks to warn a new business owner against, and then maybe some resources that have been helpful to you?
Well, I guess we're kind of starting up a little bit different than I think a lot of companies do. Mm-hmm. We have a tremendous amount of resources at our fingertips here at Rochester Institute of Technology, right? I told you about the Simone Center. So we have been put in touch with the right people. We have coaches. We have advisors. We have access to 3D printers. We have we're put in touch with people that have the right disciplines. Like, okay, I'm not good at coding. Okay, well, let me put you in touch with this person. So a lot of those roadblocks have been removed for us, but there still are some, right? Because it's an institution of higher education. We have to be really careful with how money is spent, where we're getting money from. It's to kind of walk that thin line of legality. Man, it's a really good question. But for me, I think that for us, it's going to be a lot different than for a lot of the folks, like your listeners. Mm-hmm. All I can say is find a place like Bunker Lab, find a place like RIT that has like those incubators. Get involved, get your hands in, find really good mentors that will guide you through the process, because it is not a one-man sport. You need lots of people to help you through the way, or else you won't make it. I think that's the barrier. Like you said, get out of your own way, right? Like take advice from people, because you're not going to be the expert in everything. And then kind of like I guess for us, the hardest challenge has been that legality part of it. Like, when do we file for our LLC? Okay, well, we can't file for our LLC and crowdfund through RIT's resources, right? So, well, we can't use this money for X, Y, or Z, but we can use it for, A, B, or C. So, kind of learning all of those things, I think that's been one of the hardest parts.
Yeah, and you were mentioning Bunker Labs because of their with the incubator environment. Another good resource, because you had mentioned also mentors, is Veterati. That's
great resource.
As far as get some mentorship, because good mentors is going to be key in trying to succeed in business. Surround yourself with people that have been where you're at. They've moved from there. They are where you want to go. They've achieved the things that you want to achieve, and they've succeeded in areas that you want to succeed, because we are the sum of the parts of who we surround ourselves with. And so choose wisely, and surround yourself with the right people, because that's going to be really what's going to make business so much easier for you. Is who do you surround yourself with? And those mentors are just going to be so valuable. I have mentors of my own that I go to, and people all over the world that I'll reach out to, because they have skills and talents and have achieved things that I'm not able to yet, but they've done that, and so it helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay positive. I would add to that, stay positive. Don't be a naysayer. I think too often we create our own self-fulfilling prophecies, where if we get negative, and no, you stay negative, people aren't going to want to be around you. At least not the right kind of people.
Sure. Negativity draws negativity, and so you you draw what you are, and so the people that you need are, you can control that, and so the people you need to be mindful of how you are, because you will attract that. How do your personal beliefs and values come into your business? How would you say that they play a role in your business, and how would you advise other people to incorporate them in their own?
This is a really good question. I talked a little bit about this with my value sets already, but one of the things that I had my guys do was to create their own kind of personal mission statement. So I advised them to, and I did it myself too, by the way. I'm a firm believer in leading by example.
Sure.
Which is one of my value sets that I incorporate into what I do both here at RIT as the veteran rep, but also for OpSiix. So, but anyways, back to what I was saying. So I kind of advise them to. Now this is going to sound weird. It's going to sound kind of a little morbid, but think when you're thinking about your mission statement, your own personal mission statement, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of think of yourself as if you were at your funeral, right? Your own funeral, and you were sitting there watching. What are the things that you would want your loved ones, the people that you care most about in this world, to be saying about you? And think about those things. And then once you've kind of got a list of things, distill that list into the top, few things that you want to hear the most. Then use those values, those things, right, that you want to hear said about you, and you put that into your own mission statement of who you are, what drives you, what motivates you, and then live by that. Live by those words, because it's one thing to say something, but it's another thing to to live them and show that you mean them.
Yeah, and that the way you put that, Trevor, that's the very essence of what what a legacy is you looking forwards in time, as far as you telling your story your way. That's kind of what that is looking forwards at the end of your life and saying, this is what I want people to say about me. So you reverse engineer that to, this is what I'm going to do to make sure that people are saying that. And so it's a very, very good thing that you have your team, working on that as well, because, that's making them think in a much larger capacity. So I like that you're doing that. So is there something earlier in your life that you wish you had done that you didn't do, that you kind of look back with that hindsight is 2020, so to speak? You're like, I wish I had done that different, or wish I would have done that.
I really don't like to engage in thought like that too much. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in life, and if I did things different, I wouldn't have the things that I have, and I kind of feel like the things, the struggles that I've went through, and the hard times, the hardships that I've went through have made me who I am. And without those valuable life lessons, I could be a completely different person. However, I am human, right? Right. And if I could do it all over, because hindsight is a heck of a thing, I probably would have stuck it out and went to college before the Marine Corps, and then went in as an intelligence officer. Mm. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked for the DoD a little bit and kind of worked in the intelligence fields. And I learned that I was really quite good at it, and I really enjoyed it. Mm. So that's the only thing I probably would have done different.
So with your transition story, maybe you kind of talk me through, what that looked like, and how you transitioned out and then going into the entrepreneurship direction, what that looked like.
Sure. So it was actually a pretty long journey for me. Transition isn't, I don't believe it to be this thing that it's like, okay, the transition's going to take 1 year or 2 years, and then I'm done. It's over. I'm now a civilian. I don't think that's how it works. And in fact, I think once you've been in the military, you don't ever become a civilian. You become a veteran. You become a well-adjusted veteran, hopefully, right? But you know, you have to kind of wrestle with that self-identity piece. And that part was really hard for me. But so I guess when I first got out, I struggled because, well, I was in the second battle of Fallujah, so we saw a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of guys that had a really hard time when they got out, and hearing about some of the hard things that they went through, and then also a lot of them isolating themselves and kind of cutting themselves off from me. That really affected me a lot too. So I guess my isolating behavior kind of manifested itself in playing video games and going to college, and that's all I did. And luckily, I didn't really get too far into kind of risk-taking behaviors, but I did drink quite a bit, and I pushed my wife away when I first got out of the Marine Corps. And I think part of what I was doing when I pushed her away was I was trying to protect her from myself. And I realize that now, but I didn't at the time, and I was really kind of a jerk to her. But so I guess going to college, having that purpose again really helped me, and kind of helped me to get out of my shell and not be isolating myself. And then once I finished college, I kind of took a job with the DoD and worked in the intelligence fields. So my transition was really kind of weird because I went from the military, to the civilian sector, worked in college around a bunch of, 18, 19-year-olds. And then I went back to the DoD, kind of lived in Afghanistan for 3 years. Right. And then came back to the civilian world again, and then almost transitioned again. Right. I kind of reached a point when I was at the DoD where I realized I wasn't going to get any further in life unless I went back to school and got another degree. So I did that. After the DoD, I was sitting pretty nicely. I was pretty well taken care of, and I got another degree. Worked on my relationship with my wife, so I kind of focused on that and school. And then I think that my wife got pregnant, so we have a daughter. We have a 4-year-old daughter now. So I think having my daughter Macy really led me to want to find something that was going to keep me in the local area and not in a war zone. So. Yeah. That's kind of how I found the job here at RIT. I tailored my search in such a way to where I could still kind of serve veterans and help out in some way. And I thought, hey, what better way than to help veterans learn about their benefits and get into school and help them with their own self-exploration and finding out who they are and where they can have an impact. So, and that's how I ended up here in this role. But, I'm not going to lie, I had a rough time. I saw a therapist at the VA, and one of the hardest things for me was learning to ask for help, learning that asking for help was okay, that it didn't make me look weak. That was probably one of the hardest things, as silly as that sounds, that was probably one of the hardest things for me when I transitioned. And I did. I went to the VA, I saw a therapist, and there's nothing wrong with that. And kind of wrestling with that mentality of the negative connotation surrounding going to see a therapist was also very hard for me. In the Marine Corps, when you go to see the therapist, it's called going to see the wizard. I don't know if you knew that or not. But there's a negative connotation there if you think about it, right? The wizard is like this guy who does magic that is stuff that nobody understands and is of disbelief and whatever. So there's negative connotation surrounding that. So I think that was really hard for me.
Yeah, and obviously, in the military, we're conditioned to not ask for help. So that doesn't